What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Breakdown Sportscast. I'm your good friend and host, Kory Willis. I hope everyone is doing well on a Monday. Hope you guys had a great time watching all of the college football in week 13 of the college football season. So, overall, I hope you guys definitely enjoyed your weekend. As always, guys, we appreciate you all listening in on the show. You know, we're on many different streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Amazon Audible, iHeartRadio, and many other streaming platforms out there. So feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the show. It's definitely important for us. It helps us know what we're doing and how we can improve the show for the future for you all. So, and we're also on TikTok as well. Be sure to follow us on there, where we definitely have clips of some of our previous episodes for you all. So, yeah, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to all of those applications. Guys, we very much appreciate you all's support with the show. As always, everyone, you know who I'm with. I am with my good friend and co-host. You know who he is. He is Chris Bolton. Chris, what's going on, my brother?
Nothing much. Just ready to talk about what was a wild weekend of college football. We had a feeling that there would be some upsets. Some we were able to pinpoint, and others came out the blue. Nobody saw them coming. But ultimately, it was just a classic weekend of November football, Kory.
Yeah, it was. I mean, what a week 13 it was in college football, Chris. One to remember, for good, bad, and indifferent, I think, for a lot of people out there. So, yeah, you're definitely right. It was a heck of a weekend with a lot of great games and a lot of things that we wouldn't have thought of earlier in the season or even in the middle of the season that would come to fruition.
No, exactly. So definitely one of those weekends for sure, and we're going to get into it. But the first matchup that we'll talk about, it had in the first half. It looked like it was going to be one way, but things short and changed.
Yeah, it definitely did, Chris. So yeah, folks. So this past Saturday we had a big game out in Columbus, Ohio, where the number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes hosted number 5 Indiana. The Hoosiers came into this game, Chris. They were undefeated. A lot of talk was, from around the college football space. A lot of people were saying, like, hey, this is Indiana's game that they really need to solidify themselves as a potential contender for the college football playoffs. So they really much needed this game. They were riding on this one. So is Ohio State as well. They needed to still get style points and showcase why they were one of the top teams in this college football playoff race right now. So, yeah, this was a big game with a lot of stakes on the line. But in the end, Ohio State won this game 38-15. They took care of business the way that they needed to, I should say. So, heading into Tuesday, we'll get a little bit more word into where everyone stacks. But I think for Ohio State, I think they don't have to really worry about anything after this game. But Chris, I'm going to give the floor to you. What were your thoughts about this game? Because like you said, it was an interesting game, probably in the first quarter or so, probably even heading into like the beginning of the second quarter. But what were your thoughts about this game in the way that the outcome turned out?
Yeah, it played out really how we expected it to play out. We anticipate Ohio State winning soundly, and had their struggles. They couldn't do nothing with the pass rush of Ohio State. I think that was the key factor in this game, because if Indiana was going to win, it was going to be through Rourke and his arm. Mm-hmm. And he had just an atrocious day. with 68 passing yards, Kory.
Yeah, just 68 for the day.
That's not going. That's not going to win you any games.
Yeah,
You're
8 for
lucky
18.
only got 23. Yeah, you lucky you only lost by 23 points with your quarterback not even cracking 75 passing yards, let alone 100. So it was a tough day in the office for the Hoosiers. Ohio State's just a more talented team, and talent prevailed in this one. It wasn't like they just out-schemed them just real badly in my eyes. I really just think they just had the better guys. The better guys played better football, and over the course of the game, talent's going to more times than not win out, and that's what happened in this matchup.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Chris. I think the difference in talent definitely did come into into play in this game, and we saw it in real time. I mean, there was that moment in the first quarter. Indiana had scored that touchdown. It was starting to become a game for both of these two, and I could see that Indiana was very hyped coming into Columbus. And I mean, why would you not? You have the number 2 team in the nation that you're trying to beat in their home field. It did get interesting, but overall, like once the game started to progress, you really saw the talent gap overall. So it was a great win by Ohio State in making sure that they offensively and defensively made the plays that they needed to win this game, because Indiana was coming in with a really good defense as well. So they made the plays that they needed to get ahead, and they really never looked back at that point of the game. So my hat's off to Ryan Day and company by drawing up a good game plan for the Hoosiers, because Curt Cignetti, his team really didn't play like top level talent all year, but Coach Cignetti, he's a really good football coach. So, and they really needed a good game plan, and they executed it as well as they could.
They did. They definitely did. Just the Buckeyes were too much, and I still think. Well, I know we have yet to see the best from Ohio State. Ohio State's best game was the loss that they had to Oregon. I mean, the offense was moving. They looked like a team that could get up and down the field and make plays happen. Just fell short. I'm wanting to see that Ohio State team again. So, a good step in the right direction for the Buckeyes. If you're Indiana, we'll see how this playoff plays out, but your resume doesn't look good at all. And you needed this game, I feel like, to be a little closer if you really want to make a real case for being a top 12 team. I'm not sure about these guys. We'll see how things continue to play out, Kory, but the schedule's been really soft, and this was your opportunity to really show everybody. And the quarterback can't throw for 100 yards. I'm just saying, there's going to be people thinking that out there. The one time you play somebody that's a legit playoff competition, y'all couldn't get nothing going on offense. So, are you really a playoff team? I mean, it raises a fair question.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we look back at the schedule for Indiana, Chris. Like I said, they really didn't play anyone of significance until Saturday. This was their first shot, and a lot of people out there were saying, like, look, if they can't get the job done here, what does that really say about this Indiana team overall? So, they a lot was riding on this game for them, and they just couldn't seal the deal overall. So, yeah, I think in terms of what we saw, I think Indiana is a good team, but as we're going to see with the Tuesday's CFP rankings, it's going to be a difference in what Ohio State's resume has shown in comparison to Indiana's resume. So I think that's what you're going to see, and that's why an Ohio State needed this game, because you lose another game against a team like Indiana, who hasn't really played anybody until you, looks really bad. But they don't have to worry about that because they took care of business. So
definitely.
But
boy.
Good win for Ryan Day.
Definitely, he a good win for him. I see the chaos coming, Kory. I really do. That's all. I'm over here just shaking my head thinking about it. It's going to be a wild next 2 weeks, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, look, it starts off this Tuesday. When we see those rankings, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. So, I think if you're Oregon, you're Ohio State, you're just kind of like looking down at the other guys saying, well, it sucks to be there. So it's kind of a blessing, and I guess you can say it is a blessing for Ohio State. Only in playing, the only loss was against Oregon, so they've been handling their business since that game. So that's the important thing if you're a Buckeyes fan out there. So yeah, man. But anything else, Chris, you like to add to this game before we move on?
Yes, sir.
Well, now, Chris, we're about to head into probably one of the crazy games of Saturday. Florida hosted number 9 Ole Miss. The Rebels came into town at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Chris. This was a huge game for the Gators. They really needed this game to get bowl eligible, and come to find out, they got the win, Chris. They're now 6-5. They won this game 24-17. They knocked off a really talented Ole Miss team that spent so much NIL money in the offseason, Chris, to get to this point. And they just crushed the Rebels' dreams in making it to the first ever 12-team playoff. Now, from all signs that I can kind of tell that they're eliminated now. It shouldn't be a question if they're still in. But Chris, what were your thoughts about this win from Florida? Because, man, the defense, who we've talked about all year for Florida, is really good defense. It was just the issues offensively that kind of sparked concern with what this team, and then all of the noise around just surrounding Billy Napier and his job security down there in Gainesville. What were your thoughts about this game overall? What does this mean for Florida? And, of course, what does this mean for Ole Miss now that, you've spent all this NIL money and you've lost a really significant game that could have gotten you to the first ever 12-team playoff format?
Yeah, huge win for Florida, and it shows what we talked about in the previous show. This team has been playing good ball. This team is still bought into what Billy Napier is selling, and with DJ Lagway at quarterback, I mean, I don't know how you can't say they aren't a top 25 team in the nation. They're a top 25 team in the nation when DJ Lagway is under center. His talent just oozes through the TV screen or, through his play. If you're watching him in person, the guy just makes some plays that, plays you can't teach. He's that good. He's that talented as a true freshman. And this was a huge win for Florida team that their schedule's been so tough. They've been right there on the cusp of some games, but to get back-to-back big wins over LSU and Ole Miss as you're closing out the season, the fans can get behind that. You play Georgia really tough, and you have the argument in the case that if DJ Lagway doesn't get injured in that game, you might have a Georgia win on your resume as well. The game was tied up.
Mm-hmm.
That's also in the play too. So this might be the season before things really pop off for Florida, Kory. Like, the record doesn't say it all, but this thing, if we talk to most Florida fans, they really couldn't be happier with how this season has played out as things are winding down and closing. I mean, you saw where this team was in September to where they are now. It's a different team. And they're peaking. And so this Florida squad is legit. On the other hand, for Ole Miss, you did everything possible to lose this game. And we said in the previous show, Ole Miss, right when you think they'll be the team to, they're expected to win this game and beat you, they find a way to Ole Miss and let you down. This is in the program, the football program, the school's DNA. This is what happens. They get your hopes up, and they lose a game that you think they shouldn't lose. And in the way the game played out, Kory, it was very poetic. They had every opportunity to win this game. They got to the red zone multiple times. Didn't get any point. I mean, you had every opportunity to get the points needed to win this game. It came away scoreless. Jackson Dart just shattered in his pants to close the game. I saw the brown in the back of his pants as he was walking off the field, and it wasn't dirt.
Tears in his eyes at the end of the game.
I mean, wages just at the moment become too huge. You throw it could have been an interception, then you get a chance for redemption, and the very next pass, another interception in the waning moments of the game. I mean,
I wouldn't even call that one. I wasn't even thinking that was going to happen, Chris, but it happened.
And so, I mean, just a tough one, a tough beat if you're an Ole Miss fan. But I think when we talk to most Ole Miss fans, they would tell us that they were prepared for this moment, and the game played out in the way we have seen it play out so many times for this team, and it's tough. It almost feels like there's a mental block there for this team because this loss and the Kentucky loss for 2 games, and not just you for that matter, you just make a couple more plays and clean up a couple more mistakes. Like, those games are literally 2-3 plays away from this Ole Miss team possibly being undefeated, Kory.
Yeah. No, you're right, Chris. I mean, this... words can't even describe how much of a fumble this was, Chris. This was the opportunity. I was listening to a lot of Ole Miss beat writers and just people surrounded by the Ole Miss athletic program and just fans of Ole Miss. Bar none, Chris, you can agree or disagree with me on this one. This is the most impressive, talented Ole Miss team in the history of Ole Miss football.
Sure. For sure.
You had an opportunity to solidify yourselves as a playoff team in the first ever 12-team format. Heck, you had an opportunity years ago, 2014, to probably get yourselves into the 14 playoff format. Probably along with a Mississippi State at that time. But in terms of this one, this team's more talented than that team. This is the worst fumble that I've seen Ole Miss take ever. This is worse than losing to Memphis a week after beating Alabama. This is worse. I don't know what to say anymore if you're an Ole Miss fan. I really don't. I'm being real honest right now.
Those two say. I mean, everything you got all the support from the boosters, from the fans. The NIL stepped up and did its job. This group on offense is as talented as any group in the nation. Walter Nolan lived in the backfield. He was a man amongst boys in this game. You can't put this on the defense. Walter Nolan showed up to play.
Yeah.
He was worth every dollar.
Yeah.
He did his job. He earned his NIL check. But the guys on offense didn't. And more importantly, we could probably say the coaching staff. As Lane Kiffin, you're an offense guy. And to get those red zone opportunities and to come up scoreless, no touchdowns, you gotta look at yourself.
Yeah,
you can easily take off and go to another program, but things like that aren't going to change if you're anywhere else. You got to come up and scheme up these plays, these scoring opportunities when you're that close in the red zone. And if you're Jackson Dart, it's embarrassing that some of the plays he made. He threw it into triple coverage as his team was driving late in the game. Triple coverage, predetermined throw. Had Trey Harris one-on-one opportunity on the far side of the field. Didn't even look at it. Already knew where he was going to go. Threw an interception. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. That can't happen. That cannot happen. I mean, that's real bad. We'll see maybe next year. I think Austin Simmons will probably be the starting quarterback, and I'm very curious to see how he plays for the Rebs next year, because he looks to be the real deal. But Jackson Dart, you're way too experienced and played too many games to have a mistake like that late in this one.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, Chris. So yeah, it was what a blunder this was for Ole Miss. You know, if you're Billy Napier and if you're a Florida fan, be excited, because I think at the end of the day you can see that these guys want to play for Billy Napier. If you make a change now, you're possibly putting your team in a worse state than you had previously thought. So I think it's best if the program at Florida sticks with Billy Napier. Yeah, there's going to be some things that need to be discussed in terms of stability and making sure you're giving it your best down there in Gainesville. But overall, I think what he's done, what Billy Napier's done with this team and making sure that they come together is all that you can ask for. So hopefully that sticks for the future. But in terms of Ole Miss, it's going to be a hard look to Lane Kiffin at what he does in terms of the decisions that he makes from a coaching standpoint. You know, and that's very important for the offseason for Lane Kiffin. We see him a lot of times. He's very he can be very overzealous with a lot of his play calling, and sometimes it's better to take a field goal than to try to go for it every time on fourth down. And it's a lot of posturing, I think, out of Lane Kiffin at times, and I think it is very ego driven at times. So he really does need to take a long, hard look at himself, at what he does with this team, if he's looking to really stay around. Because, like you said, Chris, he has Austin Simmons that's going to be back there next year. It's going to be interesting to see what he does at the quarterback position. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of soul searching Lane takes over the offseason.
For sure. He will definitely have to do so, and we'll see. Tennessee finishes the season. You got the Egg Bowl coming up. The season is proving to be wild. I mean, it's not crazy to say Ole Miss might still have a chance to make it. I don't know. Like it's still wide open. So
I don't see it, Chris. I mean, look, we're gonna go into the other team in just a second and talking about their third loss. How does a 3-loss team make it in, especially with the 3 losses that Ole Miss has now?
Yeah, no, that's very true. So we'll see, but things are still very crazy, wide open. And we hadn't even finished rivalry week. Like with the rivalry games, we know anything can happen. So there's still a lot of room for some more L's to take place in the conference championship games. All of that hoopla. But yeah, it's not looking good for Ole Miss at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely isn't. So yeah, if you're an Ole Miss fan, it's unfortunate that you lost. You know, this is the most talented team that we've ever seen from Ole Miss, and that's coming from a Mississippi State fan. So yeah, it's tough loss for the Rebels, but we'll definitely see, you know, head into the Egg Bowl, you know, how they respond, and just potentially the off season as well. I know there's going to be a lot of opt outs coming up, so we'll see what happens.
Sure.
So yeah. But anything, Chris? Anything else you'd like to mention about this game before we move on to our next game?
Nope, we're good to go.
All right. Well, moving along, folks. We talked about one 3-loss team. We now have to go forward and look at the other 3-loss team in the SEC, Chris. The Oklahoma Sooners hosted number 7 Alabama over the weekend, and this was a game, Chris, that I thought like Alabama had it nipped in the bud. This was a game that, you know, they were probably looking a little bit ahead to the Iron Bowl, but not too much. I think they knew going in that this Oklahoma team had really good defense. No, that's not what happened. The exact opposite happened, Chris. Oklahoma throttles Alabama 24-3. All the Crimson Tide could get was 3 points, Chris. Chris, what is going on at Tuscaloosa? Because this cannot happen.
This is the Kalen DeBoer experience.
Oh
no! This is the post Nick Saban experience. And Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, but it's hard to run a tight ship like the GOAT Nick Saban. And this is what happens when you're a Kalen DeBoer coach team. Oklahoma has a really tough defense. And that defense made life miserable for an offense at Alabama that's already had its troubles throughout the season of maintaining drives and being just up and down. And it was prime and evident in this game. Jalen Milroe could not do anything. He couldn't find his rhythm running the football, couldn't find his rhythm passing the football. And Oklahoma took advantage. And man, if you're an Alabama fan, you don't know what to say about this team. You don't know what to expect from a week-to-week basis, and that's
scary.
That is scary. You can play with anybody, and you can lose to anybody. We've seen it all. We've seen you beat Georgia. We saw you beat LSU. We saw you lose to Oklahoma. We saw you lose to Vanderbilt. We saw you should have lost to South Carolina. Like, this is what it's going to be on. I think this is college football post Nick Saban in the NIL era. The talent is much more distributed evenly throughout the college football landscape than what it was during Nick Saban's prime days.
Mm-hmm. There were rules in place.
This is a different college football than the one Nick Saban dominated. You also factor in the fact that Nick Saban is now gone. Not only that it's a different college football, but like the impact of losing him. This is what's going to be, Alabama fans. This is welcome to how it was before Nick Saban got to town. Because it was wild and unpredictable then too. Y'all might not remember it, but this is how things were, and it's only going to continue to be crazy just like this. But tough loss. I don't know what to expect from Alabama next week. I mean, they could end up losing all over. Or they might show up and play the best game of the year because it's the Iron Bowl. We don't know, Kory.
Look, your guess is just as good as mine. I mean, I'm starting to feel like Alabama and Ole Miss kind of play very similar to one another. I mean, I wish we would have had that game earlier in the season just to see who is better than who. Because man, they're very inconsistent football teams. In terms of Alabama, very inconsistent. How do you beat Georgia and then just lose at Vandy the next week? Like that's ridiculous. In terms of this game, Oklahoma hasn't really showed any offense all season.
None.
They were
Zero.
Yeah, nada. No offense, none whatsoever all season. Their defense was the calling card for them all season. They showed up when they needed to, and they took control of this game. Jalen Milroe threw 3 of the most ugliest picks that I've seen this season. Look, I give Jalen Milroe the praise when it comes down to what he does with his legs, but when it comes to his passing ability, it's very up in the air at times. So, I don't know, man. This is the byproduct of having Kalen DeBoer as your head coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We talked about this earlier in the year, Chris. DeBoer, he's very up and down. We saw it at Washington. That last year at Washington, very up and down. They made it to the national championship that year. What you're seeing right now with Alabama is a team that's doing the exact same thing that Washington team did, but instead, this is against SEC caliber players. You can't continue like this in the SEC. And I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yes, and we are seeing a coaching staff that has to be better. Like you said, Oklahoma could not do anything offensively this year, and they have all of their top wide receivers are injured. And we see Alabama's defense playing Oklahoma as if they can spread the ball out and pass it and sling it and just begging for them to run the ball. And it's like, did you scout this team properly? If you stop the run, you stop Oklahoma. And yet Jackson Arnold ran for over 100 yards, only threw the ball 11 times. And Oklahoma gets the win in this game, relying on its running game. It makes no sense. I mean, I saw Alabama fans just ready to pull their hair out, like just crying on the internet about the way this team was playing defensively, and then the play calls that they're running. It made no sense from a scouting outlook and viewpoint from what we've seen from Oklahoma this year, and it has to be better. Not only do the guys have to be better, the coaches have to be better. This is coaching for your team to all of a sudden play so well against the best, yourself included. You scouted out Georgia so well. You scouted out other teams so well, but then you play against Vandy in Oklahoma, and you take them for granted, and you play like this on the road and lose these games. It can't happen.
It can't happen. It cannot happen. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot of soul searching. We talked about soul searching for Lane Kiffin. It's gonna be a lot of soul searching for Kalen DeBoer coming up this off season. We got recruiting and everything. Pretty much well underway as we're heading into the final weeks of it before the early signing period. He's gonna have to get the guys like always, but he's also going to have to look at himself at the way he coaches, and maybe that brings in some coaching changes around him. Maybe some of that just has to change as well. But overall, I mean, this is just a mess of epic proportions for Bama.
Just man, those people are going to be hot about this one for a while, especially if they don't make the playoff. And I'm telling you, Kory, there's still an outside chance that Alabama is playoff with 3 losses. It sounds crazy, but that A is still on that helmet. That number, that number for whoever's jersey number you got, still be on the side of that helmet. That A is still the logo. It's still Alabama. And until the fat lady sings, Alabama's chances of making the playoff are still alive. I'm here to tell you that right now. I know there's 3 losses by them, but they still have a chance. That chance is very real, my friend.
Goodness gracious. Look, I'm not going to lie to you.
Everybody wanted to say LSU was out of it in 07 after they got their second loss. We saw how that played out.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And that brought along its own controversy, Chris. so yeah, no, I get what you're saying, Chris. We'll see what happens. I have seen ESPN kind of talk it up and saying like, can a 3-loss team like Alabama get into the playoffs still? Look, if there's some outside chance, of course, and I know they had mentioned like the percentage is like 23% chance that they can still make it in. I don't know where that 23% comes from. I can't tell you that, but I mean that's one of the reasons why I'm not in that war room.
I would go on the record of saying if SMU loses to Miami in the ACC championship game, and that's their second loss, I see the committee putting Alabama in over SMU.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't shock me one bit. I wouldn't like it. You know how I feel about one of my Mustangs. I wouldn't like it.
Oh, me too.
But I wouldn't be shocked one bit.
Yeah, me too. I look, SMU's been playing great football, and I mean they clinched their berth into the ACC championship game. So this is just a mess overall, Chris. Like I said, that's one of the reasons why I'm not in that war room, figuring these things out on Tuesdays. So we'll see what happens overall, Chris. Just a rough outing for the Crimson Tide. A lot of fans angry. You got every right to be. This was a team and a coach coming in following last year's college football national championship with a lot of good players on this Alabama football team. You didn't have Nick Saban, of course, but you definitely had talent to trot out on the field to really make a name for yourself in this race. And now you're 8-3, possibly with a little outside chance. We'll see what happens. But in terms of solidifying that chance, that's gone.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, man, we'll see what happens going forward. But good win for Brent Venables. Yeah, I think that definitely knocked down the noise in Norman, and I think now he can kind of breathe a little bit and try to finish out the season for the Sooners and try to go back into the lab and figure out what they did right, what they did wrong, and how they can prepare for next season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But anything else, Chris, you like to add to this game before we move on to our next game?
No, sir.
All right. Well, now, folks, we are going to head down to Kansas City, and we had a big game down at Arrowhead Stadium, Chris, where the Kansas Jayhawks hosted number 16 Colorado. Dion and the Buffaloes came into town. This is a game, Chris, that me and you were talking about potentially being a game that Colorado really needed in order to solidify themselves into the Big 12 championship race. And that did not happen because Kansas defeated Number 16, Colorado. 37-21 was your score in this game. The Jayhawks knocked around Colorado. It was it was a shocker for some people, but for us, me and you definitely talked about this game, Chris, and saying like, look, Colorado, if they wanted to make it to a Big 12 championship, they needed to win this game. Kansas has knocked out 3 straight ranked opponents back to back to back now. And for Colorado, now they have to hope for some kind of miracle. Some kind of miracle now, Chris, to even get a sniff into the Big 12 championship race. So, what were your thoughts about this game, Chris? Because Colorado, they fought, they tried. Travis Hunter and Shadir Sanders, they all tried in this game, but overall, that Kansas team was just too much for them. The rushing attack with Devin Neal, they really had a hard time in trying to stop him. But what were your thoughts just about this loss for Colorado, and what do you think this means for the Buffs heading into the postseason?
It's a lot of help. First off, I want to give credit to Kansas.
Yeah.
For a game that on paper, I mean, the matchup was difficult, and it proved itself to be for Colorado. Kansas runs the football. They dominate the trenches. And as good as Colorado's pass rush is, it was relegated in this game because Kansas ran the ball down their throats and had, nearly 300 yards on rushing yards? I mean, it's just crazy numbers. Just it felt like every play was an 8-yard rush for Devin Neal or 7 yards for Jalen Daniels. I mean, constantly moving the chains, dominating in time of possession, and forcing Colorado to have to be perfect on offense. And Kansas did what needed to be done. They won the game in the way, if you expect Kansas to win, that they did it that same manner, just the running attack. And I think it's an eye-opener for Colorado. You realize you got to get tougher, more depth in the front seven. I think this is a game that kind of exposes how early in the process Colorado is when it comes to talent acquisition. Because you might have the guys to start the game, but do you have the guys to rotate in? And when you're getting ground and pounded like this, it wanes on those starters. And you need that B group to be able to relieve and maintain the same level of play. You don't have the subs over the course of the ball game. This is what's going to happen. And so shout out to Kansas for executing, just being a man amongst boys. I expect him to continue to do this in the NFL. Devin Neal is just a great, awesome running back, a solid back, and he just took on the load and led this team to a win. For Colorado, you go back, hit the drawing board, you win your next game, and you hope and pray that you get some assistance. And honestly, with it being Big 12 football, Kory, they might get that help that they need.
Yeah.
Just know that they do get that help, because things can get real hectic in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, yeah, it's just absolutely hectic. I mean, we'll talk about a couple of the Big 12 games in just a little bit, but yeah, man, it's they're definitely gonna need some help, because right now they're behind Iowa State and BYU, and those two teams, things will definitely work themselves out once we come to next week. So BYU with a game against Houston, and Iowa State with a game against Kansas State. So I would believe, Chris, both Iowa State and BYU would have to lose in order for Colorado to potentially move up and get in. from what I can tell. So, and Colorado has
Yeah,
Oklahoma State coming up next week. So that should be a difficult task, but Oklahoma State has gotten teams before. I mean, just talk to Sam Pittman.
yeah. They enjoy playing spoiler out there in Stillwater, and it's still playing tough ball. Just had a close loss this Saturday, so it still seems to still be locked in and sipping the Mike Gundy Kool-Aid. So we'll see how that game plays out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just a tough loss for Colorado. I know Dion was pretty much adamant, saying like, "Look, we squandered the game. And, we had opportunity. We controlled our own destiny," which he was correct, and they just couldn't capitalize when they needed to. So, so yeah, man, tough for Colorado, but that's college football for you.
It is. It is definitely college football for you. It's the reason the game spread was so close. I mean, Kansas is a good team. It just had some close losses this year. Things have not gone their way. They are a much better group than what their record suggests in a similar fashion to Florida.
Yeah.
You can even say that the way Kansas is playing top 25 football. I want to say this is a third straight victory over ranked opponents, Kory. First time in program history.
Yeah. Three straight ranked opponent wins. I mean, that's yeah. I think they say that it's the first time ever in FBS history that's happened. Kansas has that record now.
That just tells you what you need to know about this team, man. They are a really tough group that understands things just didn't fall their way early in the season, but we're going to close out the second half bigger and better. And so far to this point, that's what they've done.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. So yeah, man, we'll definitely see what happens with both of these teams. But a great job for Kansas in taking down a ranked opponent in Colorado. Was definitely riding a high, heading into this game. So, a big win for Kansas by getting that W, and for Colorado, you need some help. It's not the position that you want to be in, but hey, that's how the cookie crumbles in college football sometimes. So we'll definitely see what happens with both teams, for sure.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, man. Well, Chris, you are ready to delve deep into the rest of the top 25 before we wrap it up on today's show with Chiefs of the Week. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, sir. So we'll delve deep into the top 25 real quick before we wrap up today's show with everyone. So on Friday, we had number 24 UNLV defeat San Jose State 27-16. UNLV still trying to make a name for themselves in the Mountain West and see if they can, possibly try to squeeze in a college football playoff berth. So there's still time out there right now. So yeah, I think with a week in week 13, it definitely helped them.
Yes, it did.
So yeah, so we'll see what happens with UNLV going forward. So number 23, Missouri defeated Mississippi State 39-20. Missouri is now 8-3 in conference play, and we'll see Mississippi State this week coming up this Friday for the Egg Bowl. So we'll see what
Egg Bowl, ABC.
Yeah,
prime time.
Exactly. It'll be Mississippi State's first time getting a taste of what it's like to be on on the SEC on ABC. So, so yeah, we'll definitely be tuned in to watch that game coming up this week. Moving along, Chris. Number 3, Texas took care of business against Kentucky, 31-14. Quinn Ewers with 2 touchdowns. He was 20 for 31, 191 yards through the air. just heard, Chris, as we're recording this on a Sunday evening, that Quinn Ewers is going to get an MRI. I'm sure, folks, by the time you're listening to this show, we'll get word on how Quinn's feeling. But from what it seems like, this might become the Arch Manning show. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe Quinn does play coming up this week against A&M. But what were your thoughts, real quick, on that, Chris, and getting that news about Quinn Ewers?
Well, his performance wasn't all that exciting. I mean, there was the kid who he went up against, Cutter Boley, who came in for Kentucky and played only one half of football, almost threw for as many yards and half the playing time. Look, Quinn, completion percentage is high, but you're not getting the plays that you want and need to see. And you beat Kentucky, as you should, but it wasn't an impressive victory. 17-point win. You want more from a team that's looked at as a top 5 team in the nation. And if Quinn Ewers is injured, he's left the opportunity there for an Arch Manning to come in and possibly seize it, because he's not showing the ceiling this team needs to win a national championship. And at the end of the day, that is what Texas fans are looking at. Yes, you want to make the playoffs, but you're looking at the grand scheme of things, and you're not seeing what you want to see out of your starting quarterback to have you confident that you can win a national championship this year. So we will see how the MRI plays out. I do know that Arch Manning, I think he very well offers the same floor that Quinn Ewers does. You're just wanting to see, can he offer that ceiling that this team needs to propel themselves to the next level and possibly win a national championship?
Yeah, you're definitely right. I mean, Quinn, is an upstanding individual, a true model of being a Texas Longhorn, and that is important for the fans, down here in Austin. But he's just been dealt with a bad hand at times, in his college career. This one being the most significant and upsetting instance, I should say. So, if Arch is going to get that look, if he's going to be the guy that potentially takes over and they ride with for the rest of the season to see where it goes, for the sake of this team, for the sake of getting like a true spark for the Longhorns, then hey, you might as well try it. Because look, this was a team coming in, you had a lot of great talent. Arch is one of them. Granted he's a backup, but hey, you got to find a spark that's significant enough to help you get like a fighting chance at this point, Chris. So we'll see what happens with Texas in terms of what they do. We'll see, if Sark has it in him to make that decision, to make that call if he needs to, because it's definitely going to be on him at the end of the day.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes making that call to win the championship. Nick Saban had to pull Jalen Hurts and put in Tua in the second half. Dabo Swinney had to bench Kelly Bryant, start a true freshman in Trevor Lawrence to win a championship. So these tough calls have to be made, and we'll see if it warrants making that call for Texas. But it just might, Kory. I'm just being honest. It really just might.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's tough decision, but hey,
I gotta make it.
Somebody has to make the tough decisions around there. It won't be us. It definitely has to come down to what Sark thinks and what's best for the team. And a lot of the players are going to have to be bought in on that big decision as well to try to finish out the season, potentially hoist that trophy at the end of the year. So So yeah. So we'll see. Moving along, Chris. Number 4, Penn State defeated Minnesota 26-25. It got very close. Minnesota has beaten people before, but Penn State still alive in the CFP race. So we'll see what happens going forward with Penn State as we finish out the year. Number 6, Notre Dame. Yeah, did you have anything?
Yeah, that was a tough one. Penn State was on upset alert throughout that game, boy. They found a way.
I'm talking about on the ropes. And Minnesota they've done this to people before. They'll get you. Yeah. They'll get you on those ropes.
That was a game right there. I will say that.
So yeah, hey, hats off to James Franklin by getting this team to focus in and get locked in to win this game, because I don't think from what we had saw over the weekend, I don't think a lot of these teams would have been able to make that escape in the way they did.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So yeah, we'll definitely see what happens with Penn State moving forward, guys. So. But moving along, Chris, we had number 6 Notre Dame. We talked about this game on the predictions show on Friday. Number 6 Notre Dame hosted number 19 Army at Yankee Stadium, and they won this game 49-14. Took care of business and gave Army the first loss of the season. So the first loss for the Black Knights is against Notre Dame. And doesn't really hurt Army too much, but if you're Notre Dame, you need all the help that you can get with the schedule that you have yourself in trying to make a name for yourselves in the CFP race. So just a good win overall by Notre Dame by taking care of business when it needed to.
Yeah. I agree. Good win for the Irish. You won handedly at that.
Yeah. Yeah, and Love scored 3 touchdowns in that game as well. So he's a heck of a running back for sure. They're definitely going to need his ability as they go further in the postseason, Chris.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Moving along, Chris, we had number 8 Miami taking on Wake Forest. They took care of business. I saw a couple of highlights of this game where they look like the Miami that we want them to be. 42-14 was your score in this ball game. So Miami's 10-1. So big win by
good win. Good win for the Canes. They needed their bounce back and did what we anticipated them doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we'll see what happens with them. The last game is at Syracuse coming up.
Interesting game.
Yeah, it is an interesting game. Syracuse has gotten close against a lot of teams this year. So
Kory just threw for almost 500 yards. So he's playing some good football as of late.
He woke up after that Pitt game.
Yes, he did. He threw enough for the Pitt game and that game.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll definitely see what happens going forward with Miami. But moving along, Chris, this was a weird one. Number 10 Georgia hosted UMass. UMass had fired their head football coach over last week, and 59-21 was your total in this game. But at one point, it was 7-0, I think, in this game. It was like, what's going on? Was Georgia just kind of laying back in the cut a little bit, after beating Tennessee and probably watching everyone else lose.
Oh man, Georgia. Oh boy,
they're interesting.
They are interesting. Good win. You would have liked it to be by a little more. You hope they didn't give up 21 points to UMass, but hey, you take the wins as you can get them. in this economy in today's college football course.
Yeah, that's all that matters. So so yeah, I know Kirby Smart's probably happy about that. That's all he wants is to win, to solidify that spot, because that's what they're trying to keep at this point, and I think they're in a good position.
And it's gonna get wild this weekend too. Playing Tech.
Yeah.
Don't just chalk that one up as a win anymore.
I won't. So I hope Kirby isn't telling that to his squad as well. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens this week. So moving along, we got number 11 Tennessee. They took care of business against UTEP. 56-0 was your total in that game. Number 12 Boise State. 17-13 was the total in that game over Wyoming. Ashton Gianti just continues to show why he's a force to be reckoned with in college football, and he's trying to get closer and closer to that Heisman. And can Travis Hunter allow him to take it out of his bare hands, Chris? We'll definitely see. That's what makes for great television, I think, coming up with this year's Heisman race. But overall, Boise State getting that W in the game against Wyoming. So
race wide open. It's still open in my eyes. I'm not just going to chalk it up to Travis.
No, you really can't. You really can't. And just knowing in the history of how the Heisman is always awarded, it's always awarded by who has the most wins at the end of the day, unfortunately. So, if you're Dylan Gabriel, you're somewhere probably in a good spot. So we'll definitely see what happens with that going forward, Chris. But finishing up, number 13 SMU defeated Virginia 33-7. Chris, SMU is now they have now locked a spot in the ACC championship race, and they're just pretty much waiting on who their opponent's going to be.
Yeah, no, they have done their job. The team has played consistently well throughout the season and deserve to be in the conference championship game.
Yeah. So hats off to SMU. What Rhett Lashley has done with this team is remarkable, and it's great to see the Pony Express back in action, Chris.
Yes, it is. Shout out to the Pony Express, baby.
Yes, sir. So this game, Chris, number 14 BYU went to number 21 Arizona State. Arizona State got the win to hold off BYU. 28-23 was your score in this game. The fans rushed the field prematurely. They had to be backed up. It was like 1 second left, I think, in the ball game. But overall, Arizona State got the W. Scatterbo, I saw when you had texted me, you like, hey, Scatterbo just had a great run and celebration with signing footballs with the fans after scoring. I definitely saw that highlight, Chris. That was excellent. But what a job that Kenny Dillingham has done with Arizona State. The Sun Devils are 9-2. I can't even remember when the last time Arizona State was 9-2. It shouldn't have been that long, but I would have to definitely look back in the history to see that.
Yeah, man, you gotta love the job that he's doing there in Arizona State. It's easy to work for this team, man. This is a very likable team. They just play hard football, hard-nosed football, just, not too many bells and whistles to just get the guys the ball, their best players the ball, and go from there. And just big ups to Arizona State. We figured they would get the win. They just been playing really some of the better football in the nation as of late. And this team has to be taken into consideration seriously as a playoff contender.
Yeah.
Because they very well can be playing in the conference championship game, and even if they don't, they finish up the season 10-2.
That's pretty impressive.
In the Big 12, hey, why not?
Why not?
They have some wins on their resume, so why not put them in the dance? Look out for Arizona State, Kory.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, man. Like I said, hats off to what Coach Dillingham has done with this Sun Devil squad. I mean, just a remarkable coaching job that he's made. I know he's gonna definitely miss a guy like Cam Scatterbo once he departs for the NFL.
I'm gonna miss a guy like Cam Scatterbo.
I know. I'm gonna miss him. I may not miss him running over Mississippi State, but I'm gonna miss him running over everybody else. Just gotta throw that out there. so yeah, but big win for the Sun Devils in knocking off a BYU Cougars team that they were making a name for themselves in the Big 12. Still can, but yeah, definitely a big win for them indeed. Moving along, Chris. This game totally caught us by surprise. Oh man, unranked Auburn, Chris, hosts number 15 Texas A&M. We go to 4 pandemonium strikes, 4 overtimes, 43-41 was your score in this game, Chris. What can I say? Hugh Freeze probably saved his job.
Yeah.
He was definitely going to come back next year, but I'd say he definitely quieted the haters after this game.
He did. Definitely did. Boy, you talk about just ignorant football game, man. Oh my goodness. This was just with mayhem. And it's the football guys at work. That sound bite came back to bite Mike Elko when he's talking about preparing for Texas. I mean Auburn. Yeah, looking ahead at Texas.
I see what you did.
Yeah. So this is what you call the football guys, Kory, and Hugh Freeze needed this win desperately. A&M did not need this L. This is a huge loss that is only going to further muck things up if Texas A&M finds a way to beat Texas next week. Because now A&M has 3 losses and would have a Texas win on their resume. This is... Oh, I just see it. I see it, Kory. I see the chaos. And now A&M is really going to be in the lab, too? You done lost to Auburn? Oh, Mike Elko really, they finna really get their stuff together. So, craziness right here. But huge win for Auburn, though. Yeah. They found a way.
Yeah, definitely a huge win for them. A lot is buzzing going on down there in Auburn, Alabama right now. So, hey, this definitely is a confidence booster, I should say, especially seeing your rival lose to Oklahoma over the weekend as well. So should make for an interesting Iron Bowl.
Man, we might get another one like similar to the one we had last year.
Yeah. We definitely could get that. And it might end on the side of the Tigers. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I won't count it out yet for Bama, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be tuned in to watch this year's Iron Bowl. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And wrapping up, Chris, number 17, Clemson defeats the Citadel 51-14. Number 18, South Carolina throttles Wofford 56-12. South Carolina is a dangerous football team. I would not play them right now in the season. At this point, they might be trying to lock themselves in for a potential college football playoff appearance. So who knows at this point?
It's not outside the realm of possibility.
I wouldn't leave him out. I'll tell you this much. That defense is scary.
Warming. And, yeah, they and don't let them add a Clemson win to the resume this week, because we get South Carolina and Clemson. That'll be another ranked win for South Carolina if they can beat them.
Yeah. So, hey, you can't go nowhere but up at this point, Chris. If you Beamer. Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens with the Gamecocks as they wrap up the regular season. So, number 22, Chris. Number 22, Iowa State went to Utah. They won that game 31-28. Iowa State still keeping their Big 12 hopes alive for a Big 12 championship. So they definitely needed that game to try to stay in this race for the Big 12 title.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
For sure.
And lastly, number 25, Illinois defeated Rutgers 38-31 and improved to 8-3 on the season. So, yeah, that was your top 25 for the week, for week 13. And yeah, we'll definitely see what happens in week 14, Chris. But yeah, man, big week indeed. Lastly, Chris, you know what we're about to head into. We're about to head into Chief of the Week for week 13. Sir, who is your Chief of the Week for week 13? I'll leave the floor to you.
Yeah, plenty of options to choose from. It was a weekend filled with chaos and upsets, and to reward those that successfully pulled off the upset, we're gonna go to Lawrence, Kansas. We're gonna go to, actually, this game was at Arrowhead Stadium, so we're going to Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas taking on Colorado in Arrowhead Stadium. The Jayhawks, their rushing attack was lethal in this game. The team ran for 333 rushing yards. And the leader of that rushing attack was Devin Neal. 37 carries, Kory, 207 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and he got it done in the receiving game as well. 4 receptions, the team had 4 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Devin Neal was Kansas in this game. Devin Neal beats number 16 Colorado 37-21. Big ups to Devin Neal.
Nice. Yeah, big ups to him, man. He's a force to be reckoned with. After watching that BYU game, yeah, if you're an opposing linebacker or a defensive tackle, good luck trying to get this guy down. He will not be denied. So yeah, big performance.
He will not be denied. And like I said, I think he's a Sunday guy, man. He's one of those tough, hard-nosed players. I think he'll find a way on the team.
Yeah, he definitely has all the intangibles to be that guy. So I would definitely, if I was a scout, I would definitely be looking at Devin Neal and trying to implement him into my roster for next season. So yeah, so great pick, Chris, and hats off to Devin Neal with his performance in that big win over Colorado. So. For me, my Chief of the Week, Chris, in week 13, I got to give it to my man, Kevin Jennings. 25 for 33 with 323 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception, but doesn't matter, Chris. He also got a rushing touchdown as well in the ball game. So, just a great job by Kevin Jennings, just not for this game and beating Virginia, but overall this season. I mean, he's been that guy, that leader for the Mustangs, and it definitely showed in this game, and that's one of the main reasons why they are going to the ACC championship. So, having guys, having leaders like Jennings is definitely important, and he's definitely been that piece, one of those main pieces in the reason why they are there. So I have to give him the Chief of the Week for Week 13.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. But Chris, great week, sir. Just pandemonium all around. We're definitely going to be tuned in on Tuesday's CFP rankings show to see what happens with a lot of these teams moving forward. Hey, does Ole Miss still get an opportunity, an outside chance? How about Alabama? What about South Carolina? What happens with them? So much can happen, Chris, and I'm so excited to see what takes place this Tuesday with the rankings show, and what also happens just this week with a lot of these teams. Rivalry week is here; it's upon us. So
yeah,
it can make and break some people.
Oh, and there will be some people made, and there will be some people broken by this weekend. So it's going to be crazy. I'm already prepared, and I already know what's about to go down. It's another week of pandemonium, another week of chaos, another week of the committee pulling their hair out to figure out who the heck do we put in the playoff, let alone seed.
Yeah. and that's what makes it all the more interesting. Oh man, but no, we'll definitely be talking about it on Friday's show, Chris. Most likely because there's Thanksgiving, we'll probably record that show pretty early in the week for you guys. That way you all out there can enjoy your family, friends, myself and Chris included, during this Thanksgiving week. So, yeah. But
yes, sir.
But yeah, Chris, appreciate you, sir, as always, hanging it with me here, talking about college football. So yeah, outros before we head out of here, Chris. Tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Yes, sir. You can find me on X at Chris_Bolton_12 and on Instagram at Chris.Bolton_. Holla at your boy.
Awesome. All right. And you can find me on X at Listen to KSW, all one handle. I'm on there talking college football, professional wrestling, the whole nine. So yeah, definitely follow me on there. But yeah, guys, we appreciate you all listening in on the show. Like I said earlier, at the beginning, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us on many different applications out there. It's very important for us. It definitely gives us feedback, and definitely lets us know how we can improve the show for you guys in the future. But yeah, guys, we'll be back sometime this week before Thanksgiving. That way you guys can enjoy your loved ones this week. But until next time, I'm Kory Willis. He's Chris Bolton. You are listening to the Breakdown Sportscast. We'll chat with you guys later on. Peace.